going guys? This is Ryo Murata, based in Tokyo. So another episode, Ryo almost dies in the Tateyama Alpine route. Long story short, 90% of you guys, or above actually, live outside of Japan and do not know, but there's this sort of like route, aka travel, sort of like, how should I say, hiking route-ish thing that exists in between Toyama Prefecture and Nagano Prefecture. They're completely different like states. However, in between, sandwiched together, is the Japan Alps mountainous region, roughly 2,000 meters or so in that range. And what's rather intriguing about this sort of like Tateyama Alpine route is that you can actually go there from the Toyama Prefecture side, or you can actually go from the Tateyama, well, not Tateyama, but the Nagano side actually, and you can basically bypass the mountainous region, and you can go vice versa as you wish. And honestly, my parents, my people who are around me keep saying that at least you should go there once before you get too old. And I looked at myself in my mirror and said, am I too old? But I'm not a type of a guy that likes to hike, unfortunately. But I thought, why not take that opportunity and allocate some time, as in just one day, to just go through this Tateyama Alpine route, photograph images with my film camera, as you guys have guessed, my GW690 Mark III, which is my main medium format camera, and showcase that, I guess, the beauty of the nature in the Japan Alps. I guess this makes a significance in my sort of like videos due to the fact that a lot of people who do not know this Tateyama Alpine route, if I'm right, next year in 2026, in probably in the mid months, I do not know specifically, but like I said, you can actually go from either direction from Toyama Prefecture or Nagano Prefecture. However, one of the locations, you have to use various types of transportation means, such as trains, cable cars, ropeways, and also buses, to sort of like bypass everything. But one of the sort of like the district or areas, as in the train section, is actually going to stop in operation in 2026, which means that this like, you cannot like bypass every single like course either directions, unfortunately. So this is probably the last chance for me to actually, first and last chance for me to basically go through, photograph for you guys. And it's kind of unfortunate to say that it's one of the parts is going to be gone, which is the first section of the train from Toyama Station, Dentetsu Toyama, to Tateyama area. One of the areas is gonna close off due to almost filing for bankruptcy, if I'm right, the train system. So that's kind of unfortunate to say. So I thought it would be nice to sort of like document that area along the way. Okay, so one super important part to mention before the start of this sort of like trip is that I highly recommend staying one day before the trip itself, because this route itself is really kind of tedious in a sense where there's like so many types of transportation means. You have to ride the bus, you have to take the train, you have to take a cable car, you have to take the ropeway and go down using a cable car, going down using a ropeway, etc., etc. It's kind of hard to manage the time, and I basically threw everything into ChatGPT, and it kind of gave me an answer that said you should actually stay beforehand and ride the first train that departs from, if you're coming from Toyama, Dentetsu Toyama, so like 5:30 a.m. in the morning, the last train, or as in bus, that departs from Ogizawa to Nagano, I had to ride the Shinkansen back to Tokyo, was 5 o'clock, meaning that if you miss the last bus of 5 p.m., you have to ride a taxi to the nearest Shinkansen station, which would cost roughly $300. That is like a slap in the face, and I will realize I don't have enough time because I had to take photos and videos for you guys. So I basically stayed one day before in Toyama, a really super cheap hotel before the start of the trip. So that's actually one area to note. And also, if you're coming from the opposite direction, if you're coming from Nagano, or as in Matsumoto, and you're going towards Toyama, same thing applies. You have to ride the last cable cars roughly 4 p.m., which ends really early. So it's hard to sort of like manage the time because there's like roughly 6 to 7 locations to photograph with my phone camera. I have to like meter everything, and I have to shoot video for you guys. So this was a hell of a journey. So hopefully you guys have some patience to watch this video, because this videos is probably one of my longest, as in of the past videos that I made. And also not to mention that in the end, I basically got off at Kurobe Dam. And for people who do not know, Kurobe Dam is the largest dam that resides in Japan. It's one of the largest in terms of volume wise, and also a magnificent location for taking photos if you have the time. But yeah, I guess we should start rolling the video for you guys, shooting with my Fuji GW690 Mark III. And also I use Fuji Pro 400H for this shoot because I still had it in my fridge, so might as well use it while at it, because the greenery is still apparent when I actually visited. So yeah, let's get the movie rolling.
また別の季節のお越しをお待ちしております。
Okay, self-reflection time. This is going to be a fairly long part, so hopefully you guys bear with me, but this is actually my first time sort of like scanning everything with my mirrorless camera, my X-T5, Fuji X-T5 with 7 Artisans macro lens 6mm f2.8. And along with that, I basically use the default sort of like, how should I say, holder, the 6x9 holder that came with the Fanboys 360 original system, and I basically imported them into Lightroom, edited them. Obviously this is my first time doing it, so obviously the color might be a little bit off. I need to still work on it, and also I guess the efficiency wise, I need to sort of like somehow manage to make it a little bit better in a sense. And also I need to like consider how much sort of like sharpening I should add in post. So there's a lot of things to sort of like fix and also like improve along the way. And hopefully I will make a dedicated video of talking about my sort of like initial views of using the Valois system in some kind of video in the future times to come. And also for this trip, this was a really hectic journey, honestly, because I wasn't sure specifically how long I should stick around in one specific location. If you take too much time in one specific location, it kind of becomes a bottleneck, and in the end you won't like make it to the last bus, which departs at 5 p.m. So this was a really stressful in a sense because I had to do a lot of things. I had to shoot myself, I had to photograph photos, and also take footage for you guys. But overall it was a great experience, and I basically went during October-ish timing, so it was rather on the colder side. It was like roughly 10 degrees or so. So I was kind of prepared in that sense that it was much colder in a sense than Tokyo, Japan. But still, it was actually a great experience. And also, some people in Japan, my Japanese friends, sometimes say that it's the best if you go during the winter season, because there's a bunch of photos floating on Instagram, various types of social media, that you can basically see a wall of snow. But I basically did not want to go during the super snowy season, which means that you have to wear super heavy equipment, as in outer wears and clothing and stuff like that. So I basically went before it started to snow, which was great after all in terms of decision wise. I completely forgot that in this Tateyama region, especially Murodo area, there's this national Japanese treasure as an animal, the raicho, which if you're lucky you can actually see it, but unfortunately I wasn't able to like find one. But even if you find it, do not touch it or don't do anything to it, or else you'll get into big trouble, because it is a natural sort of like specimen that doesn't exist much. If I'm right, there's only a couple hundred of them flying around, so if you ever find them, it's like really super lucky. So yeah, that was one area to note. And also within this sort of like Murodo area, roughly 2,400 2,500 of elevation in terms of meters, there's this really super famous hotel called Tateyama Hotel, which unfortunately I did not stay, but you can actually stay there. It was, I think if I'm right, it's like a couple $100. It's like really expensive. That hotel is a super retro area, which I should have actually stayed if I had the time and energy. I think it opened back in 1972. There's a bunch of like photos floating around on the internet. You can basically search it up. But I hear from a lot of people that the view is exceptional, especially during dusk and dawn, and also during midnight, because there's like light. You can see the stars actually, and it's also one of the hotels that is situated on the super highest sort of like what you call elevation of 2,400 500 meters. There's no hotels throughout Japan that exist in this sort of like elevation in terms of like height wise. And I also need to mention that this hotel, I forgot to take a footage of, unfortunately. I took a photo of it, but is actually closing next year in 2026 in August or so. So I don't know if I can get the opportunity. I wish I actually stayed there, but I realized after doing this trip that if you're ever staying in this Tateyama hotel, you have to come from the opposite direction. Highly recommend doing from the Nagano side, because the check-in is 3 p.m. and this hotel itself is closer to the Toyama prefecture side. So if you go too early, I think you'll arrive around at 10 or 11. You can't check in. so you're losing valuable time. So if you're ever like staying there, you have to go from the Nagano side to, and by 3 p.m. or so during the check-in, you'll actually arrive in Morodo area. So yeah, that's one area to note about this trip, which I digressed unfortunately. And also, I guess film-wise, film photography-wise, at Kurobe Dam, which was actually the end of the trip, there's this sort of like area which is sort of like in limited duration of time. There was sort of like a gallery of photos and information section of the historical backgrounds of the construction of the Kurobe Dam. And if you guys do not know about Kurobe Dams was like one of the largest projects, national projects in Japan that happened in 1960s, 70s, that had the most casualties, and also it was the most treacherous official construction that happened in Japan, because 1960, 1970 was back then when Japan was recovering from post-war period, and Japan was needed extra electricity to like fuel the the prosperity of the sort of like the businesses, industries, heavy industries. And because there weren't that much electricity, this project was essential. This Kurobe Dam area had the highest elevation in terms of river, so it was the most suitable location for making the hydro plants of Japan. And it was, I hear that, going a little bit off course actually, it took like a couple of months or years to just pass like a couple, like 10-20 meters or so, because there was an area where it was like gushing with like a lot of water and stuff. You can find them online. And within this sort of like Kurobe Dam, like I said, there was a gallery going on, and also footage of, there's actually a famous movie talking about this sort of like construction. I think a famous actor called Yujiro basically was acting in one of the sort of like films. I've completely forgot the name of the movie, but I'll stick it somewhere right here actually. And they were sort of like presenting that. Also the cameras and the equipment's lights that they use for that film, which was shot in 1968 or so. But yeah, if you have the opportunity, you can watch that. It's in color if I'm right. It's my first time going up 2,500 meters, and there's like less oxygen. I guess you make worse decisions, as in you can't think straight. So I wasn't sure if I was doing the exposure correctly, because of the less oxygen, your mind's not functioning properly, and at the same time you're basically hiking up, taking a break. You're hiking up a little, like taking a break. So I wasn't able to take that much of in terms of like amount of photos, but I guess it was really worth it in my eyes, because the landscape was really phenomenal in that sense in terms of color wise, and because I use Pro 400H, which does really well, especially in the greeneries and also the reds. Actually, Pro 400 is famous for having really, how should I say, popping colors of those two spectrums, red and green. I thought this was actually the best opportunity to shoot with it, and I actually enjoyed it there. I kind of wish I could stay there for longer, but that time frame, the timing was really hard in that sense. So yeah, it was actually a great experience, like shooting with my GW690 and also my Pro 400H. Okay, so trying to end this video, but it's gonna go a little bit longer actually. So because I did the full run from Toyama Prefecture to Nagano actually, and you can actually go the other way around from Nagano Prefecture, Matsumoto towards Toyama, people at my workplace say, which is the best way of sort of like traveling, as in looking at the the landscape and stuff like that. And I always have to say, just landscape wise, Toyama to Nagano is the best bet, because after you reach Kurobe Dam at the end, actually, you have to ride a bus which goes through a tunnel towards Ogizawa, and from there on, you have to hop onto either a train or another bus, actually. It's like if you go from Nagano to Toyama, it's like you see the climax already up front from the tunnel, and some people might not like that, because we're in a tunnel, I see a big dam, and then you kind of start increasing the elevation, and in the end you go to Morodo, which in my case that was actually the location where I wanted to stay the most actually, which had the most scenery in my opinion. If you go from the Toyama side towards Nagano, because Morodo is closer to Toyama, you can allocate more time before upfront. So and you can basically kind of adjust along the way. So I guess going from Toyama to Nagano is the best bet if you live in Tokyo. And not to mention that when you arrive at Nagano, you basically have to ride the Shinkansen back to Tokyo, which takes an hour and a half or so. Toyama, on the other hand, up front, you have to ride roughly 2 to 3 hours from Tokyo Station to Toyama. So you can basically shave off that beforehand when you're basically staying one day prior to the trip. So I highly suggest going from the Toyama side to Nagano instead of the opposite direction. But either way, you get the same type of experience. And photo wise, I wanted to allocate more time in the first area, so I basically did that. And do not regret that decision of going from Toyama side, because it was rather nice in opinion, because the first train or the Dentetsu Toyama that you ride, actually, I just like that, footage of people wearing heavy gear and going towards the mountain, instead of just, if you go from the opposite direction, you're going through a tunnel and then you come up to the dam and you're like, where the hell am I? So yeah, this is just my biased opinion of this trip, but I just enjoy the sort of a view from the Toyama side. It was a fantastic experience. So yeah, hopefully I did not talk too long, or this video is not too long, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you ever have the opportunity of traveling to Japan, I highly suggest this Tateyama Alpine route, especially going before it snows. I mean, people might like the snow, but in terms of photography wise, if it's just snow, you just see white. So not much to sort of photograph in that sense, because if there's too much white, it's kind of hard to compose the image. You only see snow, mountain, people, building. There's not much color. Might work if you're shooting with, I guess, black and white, because you have less contrast. If there's less colors, I don't want to use color negatives in that sense. So, and because I was using Pro 400H, I went during the season when it was not snowing, but a little bit on the chilly side. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Found it informative. If you have any questions regarding this trip or anything, please feel free to leave it in the comment section below. And yeah, and because I'm not of a hiker, I can't answer hiking questions because I do not have the expertise in that field. So yeah, we'll see you next time. Peace out.